morning, everyone. My name is Ari Nikki Toby. I am the convener of this platform. I am the founder of AT Socio-Judicial Consulting and also of an international conference that I organized in honor of my late father, who was an outstanding, still is, because with law, you're with courts, with judging, your writings, your decisions outlive you. So for as many judges out there, it's an honor that whatever you write still lives even after your death. So I when I'm talking about my late father, I talk about him as if he's still living because his words have established precedents that continues to guide the development of law and society in Nigeria, and I'm sure globally as well. So this is the 13th edition titled The Impact of Women Judges in Society and Democratic Development. And specifically, we are doing this in honor of female judges globally. However, we decide to honor one judge specifically on behalf of everyone. Because one thing I have noticed from a documentary I watched, a BBC documentary I watched about women, discrimination against women, talked about how the synergy and the power of unity in women is what can break patriarchy and discrimination against women. And I'm sure as we go on, you'd find out from Justice Doherty that helped her in Papua Guinea because the women accepted her there. So on what we're doing is honoring all female judges globally, Asia, Africa, Europe, North America, South America, Australia, Antarctica. However, we're using one judge at every time. This would be every 2 years to honor on behalf of like a sisterhood, sort of like we're using her to honor other female judges. The first was Justice Amina Adamu Augie of the Supreme Court of Nigeria. And now we have a judge from Ireland. And the next one, I hope we would find someone from the United States or India or somewhere else. The criteria is basically focused on women. So honoring Judge Doherty, the focus for this, or the goal and objectives for this webinar, which we'll be having every 2 years, is to honor a justice icon of the International Court, to celebrate women judges worldwide, to build public confidence in the court system, to inspire further research on courts and society, to theorize and advance judicial jurisprudence, to facilitate and foster judicial intellectual relationships between judges. And of course, our program would take this format. The United Nations have talked about how representation of women in the judiciary is key to democratic development, to ensuring justice, to transparency, to inclusion, to democracy, basically, a representative government, that women bring more to the table, the proverbial table of the judiciary. And before I go on, I'd like to note a disclaimer that this is not a feminist forum. It does not foster sexist opinions or competition between the men and the women. It's certainly not a pity party, neither is it a fallacy that women outstandingly bring more to the table. It is just a factual reality of group of people. It could be arguable of group of people who believe that women judges contribute a lot in a unique way, in a different way, to developing law and society. But our views may differ. Some may say they don't think women judges bring more than men judges. Some may say, well, it depends. And some may say, oh, I totally agree that women judges. I, for one, would be biased about that there's a lot a woman judge brings to the table. Having been at the bar, at the bench for over a decade, I would say that I have had personal experiences and encounters that make me feel that as a woman, if I were a man, it would have been different. So the already started with a brief history of the Court and Society webinar series. It came up from the first Honorable Justice Nikki Toby Biennial Symposium, a symposium I held in honor of my late father in Nigeria, Lagos, Nigeria, and that symposium birthed several topics that today is being used in different respects for the Court and Society webinar series, where we have different topics that affect judges, society, democracy, and culture. And we talk about it from all aspects and from different perspectives, from African perspectives, Asian perspective of any country that is represented and any judge that is represented in the platform. So far, we've had 12. This 13th one is in honor of women, obviously, and different topics that just come up based on situations that we think about. So I form these topics out of what we hear about judging, about courts, about democracy, some social, political, socio-economic, cultural issues that bother on judiciary and the courts and judges. And every time something very relevant that is bothering on law and society. Those are basically the areas and the topics that we treat. So His Excellency would be our distinguished guest of honor today, not just because he's an ambassador of Sierra Leone to Ireland, which has two key countries that kind of connect, even though it's not Northern Ireland, it is Ireland, so kind of connected to Northern Ireland, connected to the honoree today. He also knows her as a personal friend and colleague. They work together, so no better person to have than to have him to open this discussion and to talk a little bit about her, and then from his perspective as a former Chief Justice of the Republic of Sierra Leone, who would definitely know a lot about women judges. And so whatever he tells you today would be, I'm sure, the gospel truth, because as a Chief Justice, he would have known about every judge from the High Court or Magistrates Court all the way to the Supreme Court of Republic of Sierra Leone. So he was a judge of the High Court's Commercial and Admiralty Division. He was a resident High Court judge of the Southern Province, the head of the litigations of Unit for Sierra Leone's National Social Security and Insurance Trust. He also did private practice and lectured law at the law school and a business college. And he's the recipient of several distinguished awards. The Honorable Justice Tanya Kennedy is an Associate Justice of the Appellate Division, First Department, New York. The Family Court and the Supreme Court of the United States. She's been in jurisdictions about family matters and appellate matters. She was a former adjunct professor at Fordham University School of Law. She's had leadership roles in different bar and legal forums. She was immediate past president of the presiding member, I beg your pardon, of the judicial sector of the New York Bar Association. She has been a frequent speaker at various conferences, a former president of the National Association of Women Judges, very involved with women, and she led or organized a legislative caucus ensuring a healthy work environment free of sexual harassment. She's a recipient of several professional achievement awards that includes Professor William Hamilton Leadership Award from University of Florida and the MBBA Jurist of the Year Award, Inspiring Award, and an award, the New York Coalition of Women's Initiative of Law Award as well. Our next speaker, Honorable Justice Jamesina S.C. Leonard Kings, is from Sierra Leone. She's a judge of the Court of Appeal of Sierra Leone and the Vice President of the Industrial Court. She is a commissioner of the International Commission of Jurists, appointed as a judge in 2017 and a Court of Appeal judge in 2019. She was a commissioner at the African Commission on Human Rights. She was a former commissioner at the Human Rights Commission of Sierra Leone, a member of the African Judges and Jurists Forum, and a former head of, I like this acronym, Lawyers, Legal Access Through Women Yearning for Equality, Rights, and Social Justice. Very interesting. And a fellow of Leadership Advocacy for Women in Africa. And then our last but not the least speaker today would be a lawyer, a female lawyer, a Nigerian, Mrs. Titilayo Akinlawon, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, the founding partner of Akinlawon and Agomo Law Firm. She worked in Wale Olanipekun and Co law firm, and then M.I. Jegede and Co law firm as well. Interesting that she grew from associate partner, she grew to become an associate partner in the firm. Shows her dedication to that. She was a former lecturer, and I find out that I think most of the speakers, if not all, were former lecturers. She's an expert in tax law and family law, dedicated to women and children, and labor law and other commercial areas. She mentors young women lawyers, just like George Kennedy does, and is an active participant in the Society of Women in Taxation. She has presented several papers on rights of women and children and review of adoption laws in Nigeria and legalism of same-sex marriage. She is a member of the Bar Association, Federation of International Women Lawyers, and the International Bar. The role of women. Women judges combine several roles. Not every woman judge is a mother, yes, but somehow women judges have an instinct of a mother, of nurturing. They mentor, they parent, they supervise, they support. They're involved in housekeeping, if not directly, indirectly. Supervision, administering, volunteering. A lot of women judges are involved in different volunteer jobs. Community work, creating, grooming, beautifying, birthing, and judging. So today we salute female judges worldwide, from the deceased to those who are late, like the late Associate Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg of the Supreme Court of the United States of America, to the living, the Honorable Chief Justice Kudirat Kekereekun of Nigeria, and all other judges out there who are doing a great work, combining their lives, family issues, all to this great work of judging. Women's leadership, according to Judge Binbasha of the Republic of Congo, is women's leadership in justice can enhance public trust and confidence, empower the less privileged, and make the court environment accessible to the marginalized. Women are often considered to have more integrity and are difficult to corrupt. That's her opinion. And interestingly, I have two generations of women, the young and the old. And I'll start with the young and end with the old. She was 12 when she wrote this in the first webinar that we had in honor of Honorable Justice Amina Adamu Augie. And this young lady, who happens to be my daughter, when we talked about the conversation, I asked her what I was doing, and I said to her that I'm honoring female judges. And this was what she had to say, that for you to know the impact of women judges, you would have to understand how all judges execute their jobs. So I guess part of what even though we're not comparing, somehow this statement from her makes me to question if really we're not comparing, or if we're just saying, oh, well, men judges bring theirs as well as women judges, but this is what women judges do differently from men that makes it unique. So she says basically that to find out how a group of people make impact in the world, female judges, of course, you have to know what makes them different and unique from other people. And I guess that's what this conference is about. That what makes women different and distinct from the men is what we'll be basically talking about in this platform. And our first honoree, the Honorable Justice Amina Adamu Augie, did say that she has always believed that there is no gender in the bar, or there is no gender in terms of the work of a judge. Everybody comes as a judge, woman or man, you're supposed to do the job the way you should. But she's noticed that even in her years of sitting as a justice of the Supreme Court, judge of the Court of Appeal, she's noticed that female judges bring more to the table, that there's a certain empathy that is with a woman, and that she looks at the facts and considers the case differently from men judges. I don't know if our speakers would agree with that. The Honorable Justice Doherty, our honoree today, says judging is challenging but fulfilling. I had to show that women could do the job. And of course, the women of Papua Guinea supported I am white and they are not, but it did not bother them, as I was one of them. That was an important acceptance that made me challenge many cultural attitudes. Again, the power of synergy and the power of a woman being accepted in her environment. And the late Ruth Bader Ginsburg did say that women belong in all places where decisions are being made. It shouldn't be that women are exceptions. And I find this webinar very interesting because women judges are one of the most powerful decision makers in the world, wherever they are. And so we appreciate them for that. And we appreciate Justice Doherty for her 35 years of life, the judiciary and judicial service in all dimensions and respect. Without much ado, I would just leave it here and go to our speaker, His Excellency, the Honorable Justice Edwards, please. So he would just give his brief and then we'll take it from there. After him, then the keynote. Justice Edwards, please.
Madam Founder and CEO, AT Socio-Judicial Consulting, and convener of Courts and Society webinar series, Ari Nikitobi. It is my pleasure to be the guest speaker and join you at this conference. A special welcome to our distinguished Honorary Justice Teresa Ann Doherty and the panelists of international speakers from Sierra Leone, Nigeria, and the USA at this 13th special edition of the Courts and Society webinar series on the theme Women Judges, Impact on Society and Democratic Development, Celebrating an Icon of Justice, Teresa Ann Doherty. As has been said, women's representation in the judiciary is key to ensuring courts represent the citizens, address women's concerns, and hand down sound judgments. It is said, by their mere presence, women judges enhance the legitimacy of courts, sending a powerful signal that courts are open to those who seek recourse to justice. Against such a positive context in which women judges are presented, the issue that begs for consideration or attention is whether women judges bring something new or additional in the art of judging or judgeship. The art of judging or judgeship is a specific role in society or in governance which requires unique or peculiar qualities such as competence, diligence, knowledge of the law, rules, procedures, regulations, the doctrines and principles of interpretation, research abilities, integrity, comportment and discipline, and accountability, to name a good many of them. It is a fact that both men and women or female judges possess these skills. But not all men possess these skills, and similarly so, not all women or female possess these skills. Where both men and women possess these skills, do women bring something in addition? I would say yes. The reason is that men and women are separately wired. God has created man, God has created woman. Of course, out of the man came the woman. The women are more complicated. They are more sophisticated. It's like you have a car, the very first version was like the man. But as time goes on, you see different versions of women, and women have these qualities inbuilt in them. Men are stoic in character, where they are not easily moved by pain, joy, suffering, or pleasure, whereas women are emotional. So women do bring into perspective certain capabilities and strengths, which in a man's world is absent, but which, on the other hand, society is well in need of. Some of these qualities which women bring into society and development include empathy. A man may just sympathize, he may not go beyond that. Women empathize. Compassion, diverse perspectives. Women, by their nature, they are wired in such a way that they can multitask. Men do things straight. Women are less political. A result of these additions which women get or have, they do things differently, which might be helpful in a panel. The only sad thing I see about women, and that is why we need such webinars like this, is that women are a bit jittery to come into some of these things. In my experience as Chief Justice, I had a situation wherein for the very first time, we are putting out an announcement, an advertisement for the employment of judges. And to my utter surprise, only one female came forward. That was for the judges. When it was time for the magistrate, I decided to tweak it, that women are encouraged to apply. And a good many of them applied. That should not be the case. That should not be the case, because some women are more competent than the men that go for such jobs. And in not putting themselves forward, we are losing out. Society is losing out. You have a situation in America also, which I was shocked to learn about, that out of the 115 judges that have gone through the US Supreme Court, only six were women or are women, of which 4 of them now are in the Supreme Court. And it's the highest that has ever been. And even in the consideration, it was only 9 that were considered. That is extremely poor. And something ought to be done to get those qualities that women possess to be part of these courts, so that they perform and be of help to society. Like the convener said, they are parents. Most women are parents. And they have been in situations wherein they are in a position of leadership. They could discern things and come up with proper decision. Even from the Bible, we have the situation of Deborah. Deborah was a judge and a prophet because she can discern and she performed well. So we need more judges that are women to be in courts panels, because it will be helpful. In political cases, they are less political, which means because they are less political, they are in a position to give rulings that will be acceptable by all. Because for the men, they might present themselves as not being political because they are trained. They know that the perspective out there is not good. They may present themselves that, oh, I don't support X or I don't support Y. But in their minds, they have who they are supporting and do what they are doing, which may be wrong. So we need more female judges. If we want to celebrate judges in Sierra Leone, for instance, we'll celebrate Justice Duarte. There was a time that trousers, women could not put on trousers in the court. She was the one who lifted that ban. In the area of the prison courts as well, she went into the courts. As a result, reforms were done and all that. In the area of forced marriage in the Special Court for Sierra Leone, she was one of the trial judges, and what a decision was upheld in the appeal court. So these are female judges that we are proud of. And even in the Sierra Leonean context, we have other judges, female judges like Virginia Wright. In the area of summary judgment, the leading case, Aminata Conte against APC, she was the judge that wrote the judgment in a panel that consisted of the then Chief Justice of blessed memory, Aderena Thomas. She came out with a ruling. That is a landmark ruling. And we are looking forward to those situations. In this webinar series that is being hosted right now, I look forward to what will come out from the panelists and from the keynote speaker as we learn more about judges. But it cannot be gainsaid that female judges are important. Female judges, they bring more. If that's the way to put it, they bring more, they bring something different. They bring something different that will add value to the aspect of judging as decisions come out from panels here and there in the world. I thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Very apt. We appreciate you. Yes, to go to Judge Kennedy right now, the keynote speaker, please. Thank you.
Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Madam Convener, my distinguished judicial colleagues, it's such an honor to be with you today. I hope that one of these days, rather than seeing each other virtually, perhaps we can meet in person. But I must say, I am really delighted, and I have to recognize and honor you, the Honorable Justice Teresa Ann Doherty. All I can say to you is, wow, uh, you are a trailblazer in the judiciary. Certainly, it just goes without saying. Uh, the first woman to serve as a judge in the South Pacific Island region, the first judge to visit Sierra Leone's prison to advocate for criminal justice reform and due process. I had the pleasure of speaking at a conference in Ireland. I believe it was 2023. And I had a wonderful time. But, my regret now is that I did not know you and I did not have the pleasure of meeting you. So I'm hoping that if ever you come to the States, and I do plan to return to Ireland, that we can connect. But with that said, let me get right to the point. Certainly, as we reflect on the impact of women judges in society and democratic development, we must remember that when women rise to positions of justice, democracy itself becomes more human. Women judges ascend to the bench carrying lived experiences, experiences shaped by care and responsibility, by resilience and restraint, by navigating power systems that were not designed with them in mind. And that matters. Let me say that at its core, democracy, it depends on trust. Trust that institutions are fair, decisions are grounded not only in law, but in wisdom and conscience. Truth that justice belongs to everyone and not just the loudest voices or the most powerful interests. May I say that women judges like Justice Doherty strengthen that trust. Why? Because women jurists bring broader perspectives to the interpretation of law. They pose different questions. They notice who is missing from the room and whose stories are being overlooked. And by doing that, they help courts reflect the societies they serve and not just a narrow piece of the pie. Don't take my word for it. Listen, research and experience shows that gender diverse judiciaries are more likely to consider the real world impact of rulings, improve public confidence in our legal institutions, strengthen protections for vulnerable populations and uphold democratic norms during moments of political pressure. This is not about women being better judges. It is about democracy being stronger when justice is shaped by many voices rather than a single dominant one. Why is that? It's because democracy is meant uh, to be inclusive. But let's be clear. Um, when women ascend to the bench, very often their competence is questioned. And let me just pause and say that if I say something that resonates with you, please engage with me. Uh, Give me a thumbs up. Let me know that I'm on your street and that we are more alike. So, with that, yes, women judges, um, their competence is questioned. Um, and certainly their authority is measured by outdated standards of leadership. And unlike many of our male counterparts, we often carry a second shift, one that begins when the courtroom lights go dim. But I want to go back to the invisible weight that women judges carry. And I want to give you an example of what I am talking about. I always use myself as Exhibit A. Now, I took the bench at 38. I am now 58. When I compare photos of myself then and now, I certainly appeared more youthful than my stated age at that time. And I'm sure all of us have been asked one time or another, what do you do when we first meet someone? When my response was, I am a judge, people expressed surprise and said that I did not look like a judge. My response was, I'm the new face of a judge. And this is what a judge looks like. Even today, there are times when people express surprise, and I provide the same response. However, after more than close to 20 years on the bench in January, it will be 20 years. The shock or surprise does not faze me as it once did during my early years on the bench. You know, usually people's idea of a judge is an older white male. And the same thing can be said about what a leader looks like. You know, a March 2018 New York Times article entitled Picture a Leader. Is she a woman? Noted that when a professor of organizational behavior asked her students to draw an effective leader during a workshop, there were certain responses. I just want to address two of them. Vision, uh, as opposed to a woman, vision. You know, there was one instance where I raised an idea at one of my professional volunteer organization meetings, which my fellow members, oh, they glossed over it and they did not acknowledge it. However, when another member later presented that same idea, the group immediately applauded the member and indicated that was the best course of action. I then agreed and indicated I was happy the group was on board with my earlier suggestion. Another one is communication. I can recall instances in two volunteer professional organizations, as well as in one past workplace setting where persons with a dominant personality and seniority as it related to age, years of experience, or a certain leadership status would tend to interrupt me when I spoke. To me, that tendency exhibited an air of superiority by the interrupter, that my contributions were not as important or that I had yet to attain a particular status to assert myself. However, I politely indicated that I had yet to finish speaking and that I wished to complete my thought. Now, this usually ended the disruption where I was provided the opportunity to finish my point, and I eventually earned my stripes because such interruptions ceased. However, I doubt if a male who was younger in both age and seniority would be subject to such interruptions. We even saw the tendency to interrupt on the national stage here in America when then Vice President Kamala Harris uttered the infamous phrase, "I am speaking," during the vice presidential debate. And sometimes even on the bench, uh, female judges are interrupted uh, on the bench. I want to talk about going back to the other things that women judges carry. Um, one that begins when the courtroom lights go dim. Caregivers, mothers, daughters. I'm someone's daughter. Partners. I'm someone's significant other. Community anchors. I'm grounded in the community. I'm a community servant long before I became a judge. Women judges, what do? Manage households, emotional labor, family responsibilities while carrying the enormous weight of judicial decision making. However, they seamlessly move from writing judicial decisions to helping their children with homework or caring for aging parents. And this should be celebrated as a strength. The ability to balance multiple roles, uh, in my opinion, it deepens judicial integrity. It cultivates empathy, time management, emotional intelligence, and an acute awareness that the decisions that are made in courtrooms, they ripple outward, whether that's classrooms, kitchens, communities, and uh, the like. Now, certainly, none of us made it on our own. It always takes a village. Somewhere along the way, each of us had someone who opened doors, gave advice, guided us through those moments of doubt or challenges, saw potentials in us before we saw it in ourselves, or just said, "Hey, you belong here. You got this." Once again, I'm going to present myself as Exhibit A because I'm a product of being mentored and having sponsors. When I was a young attorney, one of my early supervisors told me that I would be a judge. And I'm just curious, what do you think my response was? Please put it in the chat so I can see it. I'll tell you what it was. I laughed. I laughed because I could not see myself in that role. I did not know judges, nor did I even know how to become a judge. But later, when I began to work for a judge, I could then visualize myself as a judge. And I love to tell this story because very often people see things in you that you do not see in yourself. This is why it is very important to speak into the lives of others. Some young person, or like me, I told you I am 58 years, persons who are young at heart. You have to speak into the lives of others and to encourage them. But in spite of our success, our professional achievements, as I said, uh, very often, and I'm really curious to see this about disrespect in courtrooms where authority is still gendered. Lawyers who test their authority, colleagues who mistake firmness for hostility. And once again, I'm going to use myself as Exhibit A. I attended a bar association function, and let me say, I was a panelist where I was providing my knowledge on a certain topic. And you know that very often before you have these uh, conferences, there is a reception. Well, there was a white male, and he was certainly of a certain age older. And he asked, what should he call me? I was a bit surprised at that because I know that this person has been practicing for over 20 years. So this person's a veteran lawyer. What did I tell this lawyer? Just with a straight face and, of course, with a smile. Judge, judge. Another time, another bar association event, uh, and called me by my first name. We've never met. That person's not familiar with me. I just politely said, yes, but I would prefer judge. Once again. Also, on the bench, particularly this is when I was a trial judge, there were a few occasions when an attorney would refer to me as ma'am. Now, I'm a New Yorker. I understand that sometimes that term is used, particularly in the South. Uh, and that may, uh, show a sign of respect. But if I know you're from the Northeast and it's just questionable, and I just politely stated that I would want to be addressed as judge. There was another time at a reception, uh, another attorney uh, wanted to fist bump with me, and I just declined that offer. And I just politely asked if that was the way they addressed other judges. I think the person was a bit surprised by my um, question and extended the hand to shake. But the bottom line is you have to know your worth. You have to know that you are capable, and others will try to define you and put you in a box, but you cannot let them. Listen, the road is not easy, but just in reading Justice Dougherty's bio, it's about tenacity, it's about courage because justice demands courage. And when we do that, we are defining, I should say, redefining what justice
What
looks like.
justice?
I'm getting feedback, but let me just say this in closing. We all have a responsibility, whether you are a law student, a lawyer, a judge, a justice, to reach back, help others, encourage others, speak truth to power, and lead with empathy and humility, because all of us on this call, we are powerful. Education is powerful, but with power, as I said, it must be tempered with humility, because when it is not, that's where it breeds contempt. Power without empathy and humility, it breeds contempt. And certainly, ethics is the soul of the legal profession. So I know that there's a lot of darkness in the world. I know that when we see what's going on in the world. But I just want to remind you that light always outshines the darkness.
Good.
And the light always shines through. So I just want to encourage you to keep the faith and let your light shine, just like Justice Doherty, just like Madam Convener. And with that, I wish you a happy and healthy holiday season and new year. And I do believe that the best is yet to come. And I wish you a successful remainder of the webinar and blessings to us all.
Thank
Farewell.
you.
Congratulations again, Justice.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much. The next speaker would be Justice King, please.
Thank you. Can you hear
Good,
me?
good afternoon, ma'am. Thank you
Good
so
afternoon.
much. Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you, and good afternoon to everybody on the platform. I recognize you all, and I want to thank you, the convener, and ATSJC's Cotton Society webinars for inviting me to be part of this August discussion. I am very honored, particularly that this webinar is devoted to honoring Honorable Justice Teresa Anna Duarte. As Justice Edwards has just said, she worked in Sierra Leone. I first met Justice Duarte, I don't know if she remembers this, between 2005 and 2006. I was a lawyer then. And Justice Duarte was part of a team of Commonwealth judges who had come to work in Sierra Leone to support post-conflict judicial reforms. She was the presiding judge in a matter I had in the Court of Appeal, and that was a matter that had gone on for years and years and years. In fact, I was very frustrated because it had taken so long, and here I was. For the very first time, I was able to mention my matter. I was able to argue my matter. And there and then, I got a decision on that day. That was a remarkable, I've never had such an experience before. It was very remarkable. I was captivated by the way Justice Duarte handled proceedings. She was very firm in control of the proceedings. And I felt somehow she was, without her saying, she was encouraging me to go on whilst I was making my submission. So I want to thank you, Justice Duarte. And I've also followed you when you were in the special court. You left our domestic court for the special court. I followed you, been reading about your decisions. And I also now interacted with you when I became a judge. When I became a judge in 2017 and the latter years, you have been coming with the UK pro bono team to do training for judges. And we met several times. And I remember one of the training you did was to capacitate or build the capacity of judges to handle sexual offenses. And that was quite inspiring and very illuminating in terms of how we handle these cases. I also know that you are very well respected, Justice Duarte, among your peers, those whom you worked with in the judiciary, at the special court. And I want to just use this opportunity to thank you for your contribution to justice. I want to assure you that we will continue to draw inspiration from your jurisprudence, your campaign against death penalty, your campaign in promoting and protecting the rights of women and girls. And I just wish you all the very best. On the topic, we all know, as our convener has told us, the qualities, the unique qualities of women judges. Whilst acknowledging that women judges are not homogeneous, we're all different in our own very ways, but there are certain qualities that seem to resonate in every, by observation, by interacting with women judges. Our instinct as mothers, as nurturers, our ability to multitask, our ability to empathize, our ability to give people a second chance. Just recently, I was part of a panel of Court of Appeal panel that went to the provinces to do appeals in the provinces. And whilst we were on the bench, the presiding judge was conferring with me about costs. And when I told him, he said, no, I don't think we should award heavy costs. You know, these people are not wealthy people and all of that. And he announced to the whole court, we have a mother on the bench, and, you know, and that is impacting on our decision on costs. So I think in a lot of ways, just listening to people, we can't say it ourselves, but just listening to people, I think women do bring a unique quality on the bench, even as just said what's also said. Women are also in that position to make a lot of sacrifice, you know. Our work is so demanding, and once a woman agrees to take up that job, they're ready to give it their all to ensure that they succeed in that job. And sometimes that's one of the challenges. I think we have such a heavier burden because on the face of it, there's some kind of bias or stereotype, like women are not capable. So we think we have to do more. So it imposes a lot more burden on us. I feel that's my thoughts than even the men. And looking across the Sierra Leone, looking across Africa and even in the world, I have been observing women judges, and I have seen women driving independence in the judiciary through judicial reforms. I've seen women rebuilding institutions negatively affected by war and conflict. I've seen women judges addressing corruption among judicial personnel and introducing policies and mechanisms to build public trust. Because without public trust, we don't have a judiciary. And we're talking about democracy here. We would serve democracy well when we have more women judges. Because what can we say? We form more than half of the population in our respective countries. So why shouldn't we be there and be the face of those people we represent in our population and serve the community? We have always served our community. And you also see women spearheading progressive jurisprudence in all areas, addressing gender-based discrimination. We all know that we are from patriarchal societies. We have had difficulties. Just even the visibility of women was kind of a challenge. Also, we had the culture of silence in relation to not only crimes affecting women, not only to challenges affecting women, but even economic and social rights. So now I think it's important that when it comes to hearing matters, when it comes to resolving disputes, that women are there also to bring on board what they carry to ensure that now that we have gender-sensitive legislation, we have gender justice legislation, like in Sierra Leone after the war, we had several legislation to do away with discrimination and violence. I think that it's important that their democracy demands that we are there to also look at these laws and implement them and enforce them, you know. The challenges with the job, it's the loneliness as a woman, because you have to single-handedly think about the matters you do and take decisions. You have to make up your mind about it. That's another challenge. But once you do it, as you said about Justice Duarte, it's a challenging job, but it's very fulfilling. But we also see that, I heard Justice Edwards also say that women do not apply for these jobs. But it's also possible that probably they may not have the information on time. So we also have to look at ways of passing on the information, letting people know that they are welcome in the judiciary. And women, for all I know, they also promote access to justice. When there are women, they ensure that other women are able to come in with their cases, do their cases, and we're able to pull down the barriers women face. I just want to conclude by saying that for women judges to continue to thrive, because now from few in existence, now we have more women on the bench, but for us to thrive, we would have to continue to work with our institutions to make them gender sensitive, to make them more responsive to women, to ensure that women's security are protected, women's security are guaranteed. Because we've had, even in Africa, where women have been killed in their line of duty. So we have to look at security for women. We have to look at conducive working environment for women. And we also have to address some of the gender biases and stereotypes that women judges face. As the keynote speaker said, sometimes when she introduces herself as a judge, like, people get surprised. Oh, are you a judge? I've also experienced that. I remember traveling and at the airport, and I was asked, what work do you do? You're a judge? You don't look like a judge. Same thing. So I think the more we come together, meet and just encourage each other and share experiences, I think we would be able to serve our communities better, serve our institutions better. I think female lawyers should be encouraged in their journey to go for these positions, to apply when they know about the information about judges, the appointments or vacancies. And then we have to dismantle policies that create this discrimination or create difficulties, when women are in the judiciary. I think hiring of judges should be fair, transparent, and should ensure that women have access to the information and have it in good time. Because sometimes if you have it a day before, maybe a man can quickly, hurriedly just do anything and send it. But a woman would want to take her time to think about it. So having information about, vacancies and time for appointment in good time would also help. I think, let me conclude by saying that we are in an era where, for us, we have the Gender Equality, the GIWI Act, the Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment Act, that encourages more women in leadership positions. So I think it's the right time for us to continue to hope to see more women who would serve their community better and serve democracy. Let me stop here for now. And I also want to thank you all for the opportunity to just be with you all, and to thank the convener and to continue to honor Justice Duarte. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was, I was actually in a hurry to round it up as soon as possible because she was supposed to be somewhere. Justice King was supposed to be somewhere, but she has graciously decided to sacrifice her time to spend the rest of the webinar with us. So thank you so much, ma'am. I appreciate that. And Justice King has just given us a good entry to our next speaker, the last speaker, certainly not the least, because she has challenged learned senior advocate Akilanwon and her colleagues on taking the bench, that female lawyers should start to apply. So I think in addition to what learned senior advocate Mrs. Akilanwon would say, I would also want her to address the issue of the potentials or possibility or challenges of female lawyers within Nigeria and outside that she may know of in applying for the bench. So we would go to Mrs. Glayo Akinlawo, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Yes, ma'am. Good to see you, ma'am. Hugs and kisses from here.
Thank you. Well, good morning, good afternoon, and a good day, everybody. It's indeed a pleasure to be here. And the discussion, I'm supposed to bring the perspective of a legal practitioner into the room. I mean, how do I, as a legal practitioner, see women judges, their impact in the society and democratic development? And of course, celebrating the icon, Justice Duarte. It's such a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful pleasure for me and a great privilege to be here, to be part of this discourse. Now, when we talk about women judges, the experience I've had in the courtrooms, appearing before judges, women judges, when I started work, when I became a practicing lawyer, some 40-something years back, there were not many women judges. I think in my jurisdiction then, there were only 2. But today, within the same jurisdiction, they are the majority. Out of about 70-something judges that we have in Lagos State presently, I reckon that about 50 of them are women. So we've come a long way. You know, we've actually made progress. We've moved greatly. But that's not where it stops. So the question then will be, what is the output? I've had to appear before some women judges that are so hardworking that it will be a delight to appear before them. And likewise, I've appeared before some women judges that actually do not understand why they are there on the bench. And in such a situation, of course, I'm a bit aggressive myself, so I will put my foot down and insist. I mean, a situation that happened that I brought a witness from the UK to Lagos for a particular trial, and on the list of the judge of that day there were only 4 cases, and mine was the only one for trial. And the judge, just for no reason, told me the trial cannot proceed. Of course, I insisted that no, this case has been fixed for trial, and it's trial, it has to be. You know, we were arguing forth and back and everything, but without even adjourning the matter, the judge just rose and left the courtroom. So I had no choice than to go to the admin judge to get my case reassigned to another judge. So you have such experiences, but I think the majority are more willing to do and execute their duty diligently. But then there are still few here and there. And particularly a woman judge, God rest her soul, in Nigeria, she's now late, but she was so bold and courageous during the era of military regime in Nigeria that the military said was stepping aside and somebody was going to sit in for the short while, and they had an interim government and what have you and what have you. She was bold enough to declare the regime, the military regime that took over after the 1983 election, to say that that military government was an illegal government and that the interim government was equally illegal. You know, if you knew the tense situation in Nigeria at this time, that people were just being killed here and there, politically for political reasons. The judge, a woman, was so bold and so courageous that she stood her ground. Until tomorrow, we still talk about it. So we know that women, many times, actually many more times, women judges are more, they tend to be more courageous than the men. You see, women judges really don't have the idea that the men would have, that if I do this and something happens or somebody removes me or something. But probably the women would think, well, there's somebody at home that will feed me. I mean, that's, I believe, what I have at the back of my mind. I go out there and do what I need to do, believing that it doesn't matter. When I get home, there will be food. That worst case scenario, there's a house to go back to and the rest of it. I believe that helps a lot in the case of women judges. Now, I completely agree with Justice Augie that women bring different perspectives. As a mother, as a nurturing, we have that nurturing nature that God had bestowed on women. It comes with the gender. So when there are cases to be adjudged, women will come with that thing that is peculiar only to women. You always find that women will come and look at issues from a completely different perspective from the way the men will look at it. And the issue about emotions, the way women judges handle their emotions in court, we are basically emotional beings. Women are more emotional about matters. So when matters come before the court and that motherly instinct will show face. The way a woman judge will look at matters that are quite emotional, like maybe a child that had been defiled by the father, the way a woman judge will look at it is completely different from the way the man will look at it. The man will look at it as if, well, it's one of those things. But a mother, being a judge, will look at it completely from a different perspective. That man may just go into a cell and they will lose the key. The way the woman would judge the matter, because we're looking at it with that emotional being that we are as women, And again, I found out that in matrimonial matters, women judges are more humane because they will put themselves in that position that if this had been me as a woman, they tend to be, at least from my own experience in the courtrooms, I found out that handling divorce cases before a woman representing another woman I always say is a win for me, because I'm going to appeal to the emotions of the woman judge. And that would be my stake, appeal to the emotions of the woman judge. And the way men would look at domestic violence is certainly not the same way a woman judge would look at it. They're more emotional, they're more humane, and looking at it, putting themselves in that position, and even putting their children in that position. Of course, they're going to they come back with a sledgehammer that now this is most unacceptable, and it cannot go. One issue that I would want to raise is the way we address the women judges. Now, as a member of the Ladies of the Silk, as we call ourselves, the women senior advocates in Nigeria, we were advocating that we are not men. So why should our judges be addressed, our women judges be addressed as my lord? we should come up with something else that we can address them instead of kind of imposing on them the masculine gender when it's the feminine gender. So we were looking at what should we come up with. I know some judges cannot stand the idea of you addressing them as my lady or me lady or something like that. I knew that the last female CJ, the immediate past Chief Judge of Lagos State, would frown at it and would even not agree for you to address her as my lady. It has to be my lord. So there is that dichotomy even within us as females in the legal profession. So, but I think the way we should find a compromise, I don't know, but I honestly believe that we should ensure that there is a female gender in the legal profession. You know, where it started from, there were no females at all. So we've come down with that culture of it's all masculine and that's the way it has to be. But we have evolved. We indeed have evolved. Particularly in Nigeria, we have a female Chief Justice of Nigeria. We've had one before. We have so many females now in the Supreme Court. Even the president of the Court of Appeal in Nigeria is female. So, I mean, we've actually evolved. So I think this is the time for us to come together and ensure that we project the image of the women judges. And on that note, I think I would now want to bow out and say it's indeed been a pleasure for me to have this opportunity to give my own perspective as a practicing female legal practitioner to how the women judges have impacted our society and democratic development. We've done a lot in Nigeria. Women judges have really, really done a lot. We've had cases where they've set aside laws. You know, I mean, there is no gainsaying. Thumbs up to our female judges. We've done wonderfully well. And I pray that we'll continue to do better than we're doing. And of course, sky is no longer the limit. We have to shatter the glass ceiling and move up ahead and continue to do what we know how to do best. Thank you very much. And Justice Batty, I congratulate you. I celebrate you. I'm actually so excited reading about you that God will continue to uplift you and it will continue to be well with you and you will enjoy good health. Thank you very much and I yield over.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So the Honorable Honoree, she's a woman of many paths. Empathy is definitely one thing, as we heard from the Honorable Ambassador, former Chief Justice of Sierra Leone, as we heard from the Honorable Justice King, and for the speakers also that have read her resume, a bio that I sent to all of them, we can tell that she has really stood out from a family, a humble background with parents who loved school and education but didn't have the opportunity to go all the way, supported their children. She had a challenge that some extended family didn't think that sending a girl to school was a good idea. So for those of us in Africa who think that it's just it's just an African thing, it's also in Ireland and also in other parts of the world, which is why platforms like this would expose especially the younger students to see and to know that this is something that affects everyone. So before I call her up, I'd like to appreciate the sacrifice that she has made to public service in Ireland, in Papua Guinea, in Sierra Leone, and now she just returned actually yesterday from the Hague, where she went to sit. I thank you on behalf of all female judges, on behalf of the communities and cultures that you impacted, behalf of the prisoners that you fought for in Sierra Leone, for your 35 years of life with unadulterated judicial service, for all that you have done for the international judiciary and judiciaries of other countries. Honorable female judges, now talking to the rest of you who is not Justice Doherty, but you're out there, and to her as well, you are a deliberate effort to make your community a better place. Your courage to stay up amidst the storms of life will drown all deliberate efforts to keep you down. You heard from Judge King, I beg your pardon, Judge Kennedy, where there was attempts to just shut her up. Please do not let anything or anyone to keep you down or take away that classic piece that you make, that makes you who you are, that you bring into the table. Outstanding, distinct, and powerful. Like I said earlier, female judges are the most powerful decision makers in the world. Their decision can make a government, can break a government. And it's always important for a female judge to be confident and to know that. And where, like SAN Akinlan was said, a female judge doesn't know why she's a judge, there's a big problem. Because then anybody can come and mesmerize you and intimidate you, and then your power becomes useless. You become a toothless peace bowl, cannot bite, but you're just there being used politically. We celebrate you because you deserve it and you have earned it. So own it and enjoy it. Justice Doherty said, for her, even more important was the embrace of the people. And particularly this statement, that supports what Mrs. Akinlan, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, has said. Justice Doherty did find this very troubling to her, and she was upset about this particularly. And she said that even more important was the fact that I insisted that a woman judge and lawyers were to be addressed as women and not as men. The then leader of the Sierra Leone bar, a male, said there are no women at the bench or bar of Sierra Leone. I remember saying to him, welcome to the real world. We are going to make changes. And indeed, she made changes. She's a woman who has represented the court as an icon of justice. She interprets the law as a legal cynosure. She applies the rule of law as a compass. She encourages and she courageously devotes herself to society. She judges to defend democracy. I remember I started with two important quotations of two generations, one extreme to the other. A very young lady of 12 years old, when she was 12 in 2023, when we did the first webinar for Justice Augie. And she talked about this when I told her I had a conversation with her about this conference. And she said that to know what impact women judges make in the world, you first have to find out how all judges impact the world. It is like a certain race group, what they do for the community. Different people think differently. Not all people will make the same decisions. You have to know how all judges impact society to see what makes women different from men, because there are only two genders, not 72, male and female. What I'm basically saying is that to find out how a group of people make impact in the world, you have to know what makes them different and unique from other people. This was so that kind of led a conversation to asking our speakers to, from their different perspectives, what they thought about the role of female judges. And we've all heard that. But particularly, we see that Judge Doherty has contributed not just to the development of law, but to many societies out there. She has given her expertise into changing laws that existed. We heard that from the Honorable Ambassador and former Chief Justice of Sierra Leone, Honorable Justice Edwards. And so I want to end, before I call her up, I want to end with this quote again from another generation, and this time a grandmother, right? And this is my mother, widow of my late father, who worked with him closely and who was there with him during times of his judicial work. And with all of that, I would say she is an extension of the judiciary herself, because She was very close to my late father. They would have been 56 years married, December the year he died. And this is what she said, and I quote her verbatim. It's not that women are better judges. This was interpreted, by the way. She spoke in Ijaw language. It's not that women are better judges than men. There is no difference. Women judges bring their own perspectives to judging, and they bring their unique views. However, female judges face unique challenges. A woman judge has a mother role and wife role that contends with her judge roles. The challenges of balancing your role as a wife and mother with your job as a judge is a lot. Women judges just have to learn to prioritize with each situation. Sometimes the job takes front role, other times it's family. For Judge Joe Hattie, it has been a difficult, but she has constantly stood out to make her job priority, even though she gives priority to family as well, because for her, it is about a community and a world that needs change. Amidst several storms, amidst several challenges, she went, she saw, and she conquered culture and the law. She was actually in a tight situation, but she left last week or 2 weeks ago to go and deliver justice in an international court amidst so much she's going through. From mountains of Northern Ireland to the shores of Africa, Sierra Leone, Papua Guinea, she dared culture to advocate for women and children's rights. May the heavens reward your labor of love. Justice Doherty, please.
Thank you, Madam Convener, and my learned colleagues. I must say it came as a great surprise to me to find and to read that I was an icon, just as I was surprised to become a judge and pleased and surprised to get an education at all, because as you perfectly said, there were aunts who said there's no point in educating girls. My parents were people of great intelligence that didn't have a chance, but were determined that their children would. And I have taken that opportunity because I saw how they would react. For example, if a letter came in and it was typewritten, my mother would stiffen because she knew it was from authority. So I was aware, wherever I went, the people who had the least education, the least chance, were the ones that could be easily oppressed. And I saw too early in my law career how the lowest courts are the courts that administer most of the so-called justice to the greatest number of people. And therefore, in my view, they were the most important to be watched. And that came early in a case. I was asked by a visiting magistrate at a prison to go and see a woman. She was serving 6 months imprisonment after she had complained to a village court that her child had been hit by another child. The village authorities decided to have a village hearing. They didn't bother to tell her that. She didn't go to the hearing. They said she was in contempt. She was sentenced in her absence to 6 months imprisonment. She was taken from her remote mountain village home to a prison. And when I found her, she was no longer able to talk. The shock was so much for her. And it made me so aware how we must protect those at the bottom facing a justice system where there are no lawyers and there are no others. That clash of cultures I came across again. And some of you might be wondering how an Irish person came to be in Papua New Guinea? It was very simple. I married somebody who got a job there. So I went along with him. For 11 years, it was him who was the, what would you call it, the head of the household. And for the next 11, it was me, because became a judge. I was that lawyer. I constantly saw how the clash of cultures and the rights, particularly of women, impacted. For example, the woman that was sentenced to 6 months imprisonment, because as a widow, she was friendly with some other men, but the custom that prohibited her as a widow did not apply to men, and therefore was unconstitutional, because it said there was to be no discrimination for reasons of sex. So I was first a lawyer and very much into human rights and those clashes that women in particular had. My name was put forward to be a judge. I was first a principal magistrate. I was also a land court magistrate and the first woman to be the police tribunal adjudicator. And I recall walking the boundaries, getting it difficult, and it was the women that came forward and helped me, took me by the arm as we climbed the mountains. So as you have correctly said, Madam Convener, the women of Papua New Guinea looked after me, and I tried to look after them. My name was put forward as a judge. It was refused by the commission, said it's not a women's place. So the Chief Justice, needing a judge for a particular appointment, not having any males willing to do it, put one name forward, mine, and the commission had no choice. So I became the first woman judge, and as you correctly say, in the South Pacific. And for 11 years, I was the only woman judge. It was lonely. It was difficult. But I was also aware of the constitutions and all of the international conventions that Papua New Guinea had signed. I used them. I tried to challenge the common law. It wasn't a ruling. It was a statement. Rape is easy to allege and hard to refute. It was made in the 1700s, and it went with the British legal system around their colonies. The first country to challenge it was the United States of America. And one of the last was Botswana, that said, it's not part of our culture. But I could not convince my male brothers that it was irrelevant, it was not right, it was incorrect. But every time I had a rape case, I made a point of saying I didn't agree with it, but I was obliged to adhere to it. So because of those experiences and the right that judges, an obligation that judges had to do prison inspections, I would go out regularly, often early in the morning, to check my prisons. And that is where I found bad administration is often a cause of abuses of human rights. The failure to put a person's name on the list for hearing. Also the abuse of systems. The 15-year-old girl I found who had been in prison in remand for over a year, charged with murder, when the papers shown that she had had a miscarriage when she was 4 months pregnant. She'd got pregnant outside marriage, contrary to culture. So my view then, as it is now, is that we watch the lowest courts to ensure that they are administering justice. Most of our population see the lowest courts. And it can be those lowest courts that are the ones who are least qualified and have the least legal representation for those appearing in front of them. I agree entirely with Justice Kennedy, Justice King. We must be respectful. Respect is earned. I can recall saying that to my staff. You treat the people in front of you with patience and politeness. That young man could have been your brother. We were lucky to get an education. They were not. So that concept kept going, and you've shown a photograph of me in my regalia in a tent. The reason I was in that tent was because my court had been destroyed in a volcano. But we had to carry on. And the prisoners wanted me to come out and speak to them. We had lost our home, but my husband had to yet again drive me out to the prison to face 587 male prisoners. We talked. It was a frightening experience. And after we spoke to the male prisoners, I said, I'll go and speak to the female prisoners. There were only 4 women, and they had the stoical, patient look that I came so familiar with Papua New Guinean women. My fact that I failed to get them to change their mind about being easy to allege did not prevent one young man writing to the Chief Justice saying, I don't want that Judge Doherty doing my rape case. She takes rape very personally. But he got me anyway. Those years in Papua New Guinea, as I said, and as Justice Desmond has said, meant that when I went to Sierra Leone, the first thing I did, well, maybe it was the second thing, was to go out and inspect in the prison. It was a prison built in colonial times for 300 prisoners. And when I went there were over 900. And they included 14 men who had been held for over 4 years without a warrant, without a charge, without ever appearing in a court. And that caused me to start reviewing and discovering how long people sat in prison. One man who spoke to me had been waiting 10 years for his decision on his appeal, sitting on death row. So we judges must as Justice King has said, earn that respect. We do it by doing our cases promptly, by not adjourning. In the Gambia, I found a case when I was there in the Gambia. It took 16 years for that case to be dealt with because it was adjourned every time. And I also introduced the idea of no adjournments in Sierra Leone. I, as Justice Desmond has said, was appointed by to the International Tribunal, and it gave me an opportunity to look further. But it was Justice Nabe Pillay, originally from South Africa, who was the outstanding international woman judge who, for the first time, raised the issue of sexual violence in war. There were no women judges there were no women judges, no women lawyers, and no women victims at Nuremberg. And if Justice Nabe Pillay had not spoken up, there mightn't have been any in the Rwanda tribunals either. I was, as a student in Belfast, I'd remembered the impact of war and civil disturbance on children, and remembered it as we wrote Child Soldiers. I argued with my colleagues on the forced marriage as I listened to those witnesses describing the mental and physical impact of being forcefully married to soldiers. And that led to that first decision, which I upheld in the Court of Appeal. And I'm sure my two women colleagues were instrumental in ensuring that. We women judges have made changes, and we have shown the need to think of the people in the lower areas, to be respectful to those appearing in front of us. The fact that we have robes on doesn't make us semi-gods. We are still obliged to think, as Judge King has said, to be respectful to others, because that means the law will be respected, and that has always been my mandate. Thank you again. I don't know why. I'm sure my parents would be amazed to hear I was an icon.
Thank you so much, ma'am. That is so amazing. And this is the time where we would give kudos and ovations to your husband. Hello, sir. Good to see you. Thank you for taking her to Papua Guinea. And using him also as a point of contact to spouses of judges, because really they support, they support driving you to the prisons. They support, like my mother supported my late father. It's amazing. And for any husband of a female judge out there, thank you. Thank you for supporting them. Thank you for, yes, go ahead, please.
I was just going to say that I made a point in my farewell address of saying I was able to do the job because I was allowed to do it, because I knew I had male colleagues who did not allow their wives to do things.
I can imagine. So we thank you all. So Victory, if you're there, can you just take questions and introduce yourself briefly and make a comment or two and take questions? Or if you have a question, then you go ahead. Victory, yes.
Good day, everyone. My name is Victory Amadi. I'm a new wig. For those who are not familiar with the term new wig, that means I'm a new lawyer. I was just called to the Nigerian bar this September of this year. So standing on all existing protocols. So good day, Your Excellency. Good day, my Lord. Good day, my learned seniors. And I don't know if there's any learned colleague here. I don't think so. So I'm the baby,
You're doing great. You're doing great.
You
Go
have
ahead.
my ladies here as
Yes,
Yeah,
well.
they're insisting. You
My
better put that.
ladies.
My ladies,
yes,
my lords,
yes,
and my
Yes.
my
ladies.
Yes. I know you're
ladies.
from Nigeria, but
Yes,
learn that we want to be called my lady.
Yes,
Yes.
ma'am.
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Good day, everyone. I'm very, very happy and I appreciate the opportunity to be here today. Obviously, as a new league and as a lawyer, this is a very important topic for me. And I've learned so much from everybody. Hello? Yes. I've
Yes, we
learned so
can hear
much.
you.
Okay. I learned so much from everyone. Honorable Judge Kennedy, she spoke about the how democracy should be inclusive, about it's not about women being better judges, but about democracy. And she also spoke about like the image of how judges, like in her head before, of like if you ask someone before, what do you think of when you hear the word judge? They'll mostly imagine, a man. And I was that way, like when I was younger, because when I was younger, I wasn't exposed to a lot of female judges, mostly male judges. My dad is a lawyer too, so I was mostly seeing male judges. But when I went for externship, I was put in the court of a female judge. So that was a very great experience for me. Lovely, lovely experience. So thank you very much to everyone who spoke. I really appreciate, and I've been impacted with a lot of knowledge to help me in my future journey as a lawyer and as a barrister and a solicitor. Thank you very much also to the host, Dr.
Oh,
Ari Nikitobi.
wonderful.
I really appreciate it. Yes,
It's
ma'am. I really,
exciting.
really
It's
appreciate it.
exciting.
Yes,
Welcome. I
ma'am.
guess I guess this is the place where we would all welcome her to the legal profession. Is there any one of us who wants to welcome her, the new wig?
Oh, I want to welcome her. Victory, welcome and
Yes.
congratulations. Welcome to the bar, and I wish you
Thank
all
you
the
very much,
best.
ma'am.
And I
Thank you
hope
very much.
today's session would instill that drive in you to work hard and to aspire to be a judge.
Oh.
All the best.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you. So any
I also want
questions?
to, okay.
Oh, go ahead. You wanted to say something, Victory?
Yes,
Go
I
ahead.
wanted to also thank the special guest. I want to also thank the special guest. Very, very, like, I'm so inspired, coming to Africa and being a judge as far back as 30 something years of being on the bench. It's really amazing. Like, it's so inspiring, and I can see myself getting there. So thank you very much, Ma. Thank you, Ma. Yeah.
Okay,
Welcome.
so go join the National Association of Women Judges. As soon as you can, go join them so that we can start mentoring you from there.
Yeah. Yes, Ma.
Okay. So I don't know if Milady Justice Onyekon is available. Before she comes up, if she is, any questions, please. So this is the point where we're waiting for questions. I'd like to acknowledge a few judges. They were not around when we started, so or if they were, I didn't notice any, and I apologize for that. So judges of the High Court, I think I see Justice Oshodi, Milady. Thank you for being here. I think I saw Justice Okunu, I can't remember. Well, because some of your there are no names to say that you are judges, so I wouldn't know if I think Justice Abdullahi Justice Oyekon is available. Yes, Milady, nice to see you,
Yes,
ma'am.
good to see you too.
Thank you so much. How's the
My
weather?
pleasure. Oh, the weather is fine.
And retirement is good. It's showing well on you.
Yes, it is.
Thank you, ma'am.
It's very nice.
So a few words from you from your
Am I
experience,
still,
ma'am.
can you hear me?
Yes, we all can.
Okay.
Ma'am, I just want to introduce you briefly. She's a retired judge from Lagos State Judiciary. And I didn't work closely with her, but I saw her a couple of times, and I've heard great things about her commitment to judicial service. So to not take time because we have just a few more minutes, she's here to give us words of wisdom and to close the webinar. Thank you, ma'am.
Oh, I think it's a great pleasure listening to judges and of different divisions and to celebrate one of our own today. It's not every time that you celebrate female judges, and this is just a very unique way to celebrate Justice, very distinguished career in Africa and now all over the world because she's in the Hague now. And I want to commend your effort, moderator, for doing this.
Thank you, ma'am.
Because if we don't celebrate ourselves, no one will celebrate us. So I thank you for popping up this name and celebrating Justice,
Doherty.
yes, Justice Duarte. I have lived this life, 40 years at the bar, 25 years on the bench, and I'm retired. I'm nearly retired. And I appreciate all that you have said about female judges and their impact. I especially want to appreciate this honorary that has lived a life of in the Catholic faith, they call it celibacy. But Judge being a judge is almost, I always liken it to it.
Yes. Yes.
And
Yes.
this as this forum has given us an impact of women judges on society and democracy. And the development is not abstract. This development that you have chosen is not an abstract one. It is one that is lived, visible, and transformative. And as we all are listening to judges from New York City, from somebody from African experience who is from Ireland, and Sierra Leone, my Lord Justice King, and the ambassador has given us an insight of what every judge should aspire to do on the bench. And I hope that this gets to every corner of the world, not only those of us that are on this platform, but for every aspiring lawyers like this lady, Victoria. I hope one day you end up on the bench, and I speak to your life that it shall be
Amen.
so, because
Amen.
the
Amen, ma.
justice we've had incidents that we have spoken. Somebody spoke to our lives too before we got to where we have achieved today, or where we were, or where we have left, and believing in us that the impossibility that you are what they call a privileged few to be on the same platform with us will inspire you to become one of us in the latest nearest future, and I'm looking forward to that. I thank everybody that has listened, and I hope very often that we get to talk and celebrate our honorary more often than we have done today. Thank you for being a light for us to see. And I thank everyone that would like to be like you to continue in this spirit and in this light that you have shown. I thank you, the moderator, and I thank everybody that has been on this platform throughout this webinar. Thank you all, and
Thank you
bye.
so much, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being
Thank
here.
you.
We
Thank
appreciate
you.
you. Thank you so
Thank you.
Thank
much.
you very much.
Thank you, my lord.
Thank
Thank you, my
you.
lady.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
my
you.
lady.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
Thank you,
much.
ma.
You.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much.
Judge
Okay.
Doherty, Judge
Yes.
Doherty, can you give us a goodbye candy? When you talked about the trouser issue, what was that? What was it about the trouser? Wearing trousers to
Oh,
court.
it was a notice on the outside of the court building in Freetown, Sierra Leone. And it said no women might are allowed to enter this building wearing trousers or shorts. And as Justice Desmond has correctly said, I thought, watch me. So I waited, of course, I waited. And then the other obligation on women coming in is they had to have something, wear something on their head. I said that's not necessary. And I turned up at court after about a few months wearing trousers. And what could the Chief Justice say? He wasn't paying my wages. It was being paid by the Commonwealth.
So
It's
you
all
just walked
changed
right
now.
in.
It's all
And very
changed
good.
now.
So that's the explanation.
Okay.
And my Sierra Leone lady colleagues quickly followed suit.
Oh, wow.
Definitely.
And
And
nobody talked. Nobody said anything after that.
no.
Actually, the Chief Justice, one of the ambassadors asked in his presence, "How do I address you?" The question was to me. And the Chief Justice immediately said, "It's wearing trousers, so it's a man."
Professor Shenua, you wanted to say something, ma? Thank you for being here, ma.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this opportunity. It's been very interesting. I didn't
Thank
want
you,
to
ma.
say anything. I just laughed out loud when Justice Doherty said the CJ then said she's wearing trousers there, so he's wearing trousers, so he must be a man. So and I just couldn't stop laughing at that. So
It
thank
was
you very
funny.
much. And I want to celebrate everybody, whether retired or still serving on the bench. It really has been very interesting sitting here. And of course, you have started to jog my thinking, about some research questions and some of the
Exactly,
issues
ma.
raised.
You took that from me. I actually jotted something on research, and we will talk about it. I'll call you later, ma. Professor
Okay, then.
Shenua is on sabbatical. She was former DVC development. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
So the recording will
Bye.
be ready as soon as possible. I would get it ready. Much, me
Thank
lady.
you.
Thank you
There were
very
no
much.
questions, so I think everybody got the better part of it. There were no questions, and
Thank you.
I didn't want to keep anybody longer.
Okay, see you. Merry Christmas and a
Lena
blessed
Dese and
Thank you.
Akilama,
year.
thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. And for those who are using numbers and using phones or gadgets that have no names, thank you for being here. We appreciate you. Thank you.
Yes, I need to let you know, Eri, that Justice Okunu was online. Her name is directly under Justice M.I.O. Shode.
Oh, I didn't.
Just waved at you now. She just waved at you. They waved just.
Oh, yes. Oh, Justice Okunu. Thank you so much, ma. Justice Okunu. Thank you so much for being here. Of course, His Excellency, the Ambassador. Thank you also, sir. It was a wonderful session. And I pray that I would definitely send the recording to the Honorable Chief Justice, who is not able to be here, of course, because she's very busy. And we know that the National Association of Women Judges would consider some of the matters or recommendations that were made here, and I would send that out to as many women judges platforms as possible. Thank you. Thank you so much. I hope I didn't miss any judge that was here. We celebrate you all. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. God bless.
Amen.